Hello everyone, welcome to the playoffs of the FIDE Grand Prix 2022 in Berlin, Germany. It's going to be Wesley versus Hikaru Nakamura in the finals of the Berlin Grand Prix. That is going to be an exciting finals. Alright, let's check out Wesley's game against Tabatabai. In the first playoff game, he was playing black. Amin went for d4. Wesley, knight f6. Knight c3. Alright. Second move is a surprising move from Amin. It's a good thing about rapid playoffs or blitz. You see a different kind of player compared to the classical one. This is more of like the skill, not so much about opening preparation. d5, bishop f4. Okay, we have the rapport Jubava system. If you go bishop g5, we can also go bishop g5 here. The Verisov, the Verisov. Bishop f4. Okay, main idea would be to go knight b5 here, but Wesley was like, all right, go for it. At the moment, you cannot go knight b5 because there's queen a5 check, right? The bishop is still not developed yet. White has to push e3 to protect the knight. Then if you go back, takes on d4, takes on d4, there's knight c6, and d4 is coming, you lose a piece here. Okay, there's queen a4 takes, knight takes a4, but e5. Black's a complete control of the middle. And this knight is just so bad on the rim. Okay, but an interesting fourth move here by Amin. e4. If you want to play e3, it's also possible. Black will go for takes here. This is just like the Karukan exchange, in the London system also, which is possible. Bishop g4 probably. Okay, e4, interesting. Takes. Amin came here to fight. Queen takes d4, knight c6. Bishop b5, a6. Takes. Black has the bishop pair, but white has development. e5, knight g8. Look at black's pieces. Black needs to regroup. White has already developed his knight, his bishop, centralized queen. Okay, it looks as if white is going to win the game, with the placement of black's pieces. But actually, no. Castle's queen side, imagine that. White already castled. Look at black's pieces, still on the 8th rank. Okay, the start of regrouping, e6. First is to control the middle. Another centralized knight. Okay, white is not wasting his time. Bishop into d7, knight d6 check. Takes. Right here, pawn on d6. f6. Wesley wants to go for e5. Knight f3. Rook to b8. Wesley tries to go for counterplay. And when white has the attack, when your opponent is attacking you, you need to exchange at least the queen. Rook h e1. Centralized rook. Queen to b6. Okay, the process of elimination. First is to get rid of the queen, or else your king will be dead with that queen on d4 or anywhere. The queen also cannot go back to d3 because queen takes b2 is coming. So white is forced to exchange. Takes and takes. Bishop into e3. Alright, white wants to transfer his bishop to c5 to protect that pawn on d6. Rook to b8, c4, maybe not the best continuation here. White can go for knight e4 here. Yes. And if Wesley goes for king f7, knight b3, this is a better version, right? Knight on c5. Not so much with c4, because it became a problem, by the way. King f7, rook to d3. Okay, white wanted to go for rook a3 and rook takes a6. But Wesley was very smart. Knight h6. Rook a3, no problem. Knight f5. Once black gets rid of the bishop, black is fine. Bishop c5, h5, not allowing g4, right, to stabilize that knight on f5, because that knight is also attacking that pawn on d6. Rook takes a6. White wins the pawn, but black gets activity. Now his pieces are coordinated. Takes and takes. Okay, he's down a pawn, but black doesn't worry, because this pawn and d6 will fall later in the game. King to b1, e5, right? The main point of e5 is to put the king on e6. Now knight d6 is coming. h3, wasted a move again for white. Okay, good move by Wesley. h4, not allowing g4, because if you play g4, now we have an en passant on g3. b3 protecting c4, king e6, right? King is active. King to b2, g5 first, right? To protect that pawn on h4, getting ready to capture the pawn on d6. Rook into e2, bishop e8 first. Nice move by Wesley. Clearance for the king on d7, because you cannot capture d6 yet. If you play knight h6, there's knight e4 check. Yes. And then king e7, you are pinned, yeah, and you're pinned down here. And bishop e8 was nice, so that if knight e4 checks, then you have king d7. a4 takes on c4 first, right? d2 takes on b3, although it was also possible for Wesley to take that pawn on d6 right here. Again, if you go knight d4 check, then just king d7. Not too sure, maybe he was worried about takes on d6, and knight f5. But I guess you just go back to d7. Yes. Okay, so takes on c4 first, rook d2, takes on b3. King takes b3, king d7. Now the bishop is ready to go for bishop f7, bishop d5. Bishop b6, not too sure about this. Knight takes d6 now. Imagine earlier it was white having a pawn up, but this time it's black getting that one pawn. A sudden turnaround. All of a sudden, water tastes like wine here. Bishop f7, check. Should be for bishop d5. Rook into c2, knight c8. Yes. Black is ready to simplify. You can take. Yep. Rook b2 takes on b6. Rook a6 is good. King into c3. If the king goes to c5, for example, there's rook a5 check. You're forced to go back to b4, then rook b5. After king takes, rook takes b2, king takes b2, takes on f3. Right? It's the process of simplification or elimination. King b7, if you put king c3, king b7, goodbye. That extra pawn. So he went for king c3, it's king c8, knight h2, f5, not allowing any counterplay, no knight g4. Knight goes to f1, trying to go for knight e3, king to b7, knight e3, just bishop e6, rook d2, rook takes b6. If you go rook d6 this time, Wesley is ready for c5. Yes, the rook protects the bishop. Tabatabai went for rook d8, king c7, right. Rook into f8, f4, knight into c2, rook b3 check, king d2, king d6. King e7. The rest is just a matter of technique here. c5 is just a lot of pawns. Okay, 7 bishop f7. And you want rook to b2. Another pawn. Rook to e2. Okay, you just have to be careful here. If you play rook takes g2, then knight takes e5. Although it is still winning, yes, with king f6 or just rook g3, king d2, for example. You can even just sacrifice that bishop, knight takes f7, and then king f6. Knight goes to d6, then rook d3 check. Takes the knight. So knight has no better square, by the way. Okay, but Wesley was very careful, protecting e5. Knight takes e5, king f6, king e6, alright, king d5, bishop on e6, king to c6, bishop f5, rook c2, takes, king to d5, king to d4, king e3, and the last move, bishop d3. Okay, whatever black plays, it's already winning. And that was it. The first game, Wesley won, so he just needs a draw in the second game to get into the finals. But in the second game, Wesley also won that important game. Alright, let's go to game number 2. Wesley was white. He started with d4. Amin needs to win to get into the Armageddon. Knight f6 c4, g6 knight c3, g7 e4, d6. Okay, we have the king's Indian. Knight f3, castles, bishop e2, knight bd7, castles, e5, bishop into e3, c6. Alright, d5, typical in the king's Indian, c5, right, knight into d2, king h8, g4. Alright, Wesley is in a fighting mood, huh? Knight into g8, knight f3 back, knight b6, h3. Alright, f5, takes on f5, takes on f5. White's king looks vulnerable on g1. Takes on f5, bishop takes f5. Black actually is better here. But that's the thing about the faster time control. It's anybody's game. Even if you have a bad position, you can still recover because of that less time. The opponent has less time to think. Knight into g5, bishop h6, queen to d2, queen d7, king h1. Wow. It's king h1 and h3 is hanging. Takes on g5, takes on g5. Maybe this one was a bit rush, yeah. Black could have played h6 first. Okay, the main point is that if bishop takes h6, you can use this square for the queen, yes, and you can go queen takes h3. Because if bishop takes f8, rook takes f8, how to defend h3? If queen e3, bishop takes h3. King is not safe right here. If you go king g1, just knight f6 and rook g8, right? Not good for white. Insert h6, and if let's say the bishop goes back to h4, only then you take rook to g1. Now you have rook f4. Because if bishop g3, you have knight takes e4. Right? The pieces come into play. And Wesley's king is just so bad on h1. But it was important to play that intermediate h6 move for black. But he captured h3 straight away. Too rush. Takes on f2, queen e3. Now white gets back into the game. Rook f8, knight e4. Wesley could have played b3 here at least. not allowing this knight takes c4 counterplay, but because knight takes c4 is quite strong. Knight e4 takes, rook to f3, not the other rook, because if you go rook 8 f3, then knight takes f2. Rook takes e3, bishop takes e3, then rook g3 and rook g1. So rook 2 f3, bishop f6. Wesley played too fast with bishop f6. He was supposed to play bishop b5 first. Okay, what's the difference? Okay, let's take a look at queen takes b5. Only then you go bishop f6. Rook takes an f6, knight takes an f6, knight takes f6. You have queen takes h3 because the queen moves away from defending the bishop on h3. So that was an important defensive move here, bishop b5. Not bishop f6. Okay, why? Takes an f6, takes, rook g3. Here black played bishop g4, not the best square for the bishop. It was better to play it on f5. Right, okay, why? Right, let's just say rook to g1, for example. You have rook h6. Okay, king goes to g2. You can exchange the rook on g6, because if takes, h takes g6, and the king g7. The knight protects these two important squares. Then you also have b5 here. Compared it to what happened in the game. Bishop g4, now rook f1. Takes an f1. Knight into f6. King g1, queen f5. Queen h6, knight e4, rook g2. Queen takes, rook g3. h5, rook a3. Wesley was able to do this. b5, rook a3, sacrificing, and rook a8. This could not happen if black played bishop f5 straight away. Bishop f5 straight away. Again, if you play rook f1, always rook h6, king here, this move, rook g6. Because with that exchange, right, pawn exchange, g6, it's much better. While the other exchange, no. Rook g3, big difference. After the exchange of queens, Wesley, nice, rook a3, rook to b3, then rook a3, getting that pawn. Rook a8. Black could still hold, but black needs to be precise here, because white now has this outside pass pawn. Takes an a3, knight takes d5, a4, king e7. It's funny that king e7 is a mistake compared to king e6. Why is it different? Again, another important moment here. Why is king e7 a losing move than king e6? Okay, a5, knight goes to c7. If, let's say, rook to b6, the knight can go back to d5. Yes. Rook b7, you have knight b4. Now, if you look at king e7, a5, knight c, let's say you go knight c7, for example, rook b6. If you go knight d5, rook b7 is a check here. But the thing here also is that Wesley is still happy with the draw, because he won the first game. It's only the best of 2 in the playoffs. So when you get 1.5, you still win the match. And there's no other way for black to win here, whether he plays king e6 or king e7. White already has the draw. So king e7, a5, knight into b4, rook b6, threatening a6, king d6, a pawn and a6. Right, after knight e5, rook to b8. Tabatabai resigned. Wesley is in the finals. It will be an intriguing matchup in the finals between Wesley and Hikaru Nakamura. And what if Wesley wins the finals? will he get that final spot? Okay, FIDE's decision to give the last spot to the highest rated player in the May 1st rating list is a bit controversial, because what China is doing with England right now is it's just so funny, yeah? Having this quadruple round robin in China just to give England this minimum rated games of 30. Imagine it's only in the first tournament is played only 3 players, yeah, but 4 times each, so that's 12. I don't know what's next. He needs to get 30 before May 1. And imagine if Wesley wins the finals against Nakamura. It's just sad, yeah. The best reward for Wesley to win Berlin is a spot in the candidates. But okay, worry about that later. Win Berlin first. Yeah, we're hoping for Wesley to win Berlin. Again, Nakamura is already the overall winner of the Grand Prix, having won the first leg in Berlin. And another finals here in Berlin. Yeah, Nakamura is falling in love with Berlin. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting our channel, Charts Max Chess and Charts Max Entertainment on our Facebook and YouTube. This is Coach Oliver. Stay safe everyone. Bye bye.